Good morning, dear student. Today we are going to start our second chapter of fourth unit, that is clinical pharmacy. Uh, Keep your camera and mic off. Clinical pharmacy is defined as the branch of pharmaceutical science dealing with utilization of pharmacist knowledge, skill, and judgment related to biomedical and pharmaceutical science to prove the safety, the cost, and the precision of drug uses in patient care. So this is a important role of clinical pharmacists to take care of patient care regarding the safety, drug uses, and cost criteria. Now, the status of clinical pharmacy in India. In developed country like USA, Canada, UK, clinical pharmacy is already taken in good stead. There is pharmacists play an important role, but in India, it is in early stage, infancy stage, or just growing stage. The role of retail pharmacist is viewed by the many people in simply transforming the pills you can see in the picture from large bottle to small bottle by counting or strips he can give. He is giving the strips, tablets, ointments, or oral dosage form. Much of his time is seen to devoted routine selling of cosmetics, saving supplies, stationery, other commodities which are little or no relation with a healthcare. You have seen number of things they are keeping in a medical store, like ice cream, like general store, general items, like some kirana material they are keeping in their medical store. But that is not a duty of pharmacist. India stands among the top 15 in the world in a pharmaceutical market with respect to the pharmaceutical production, export and imports. There is still need a developed concept of clinical pharmacy in India. Today there is a drug explosion and information explosion is related to the drug is very important to aware the society, to aware the patient regarding the drug. Uh, on one hand, there is development of newer and effective drugs, and other hand, there is a potential hazard of side effect are arise. So if you are going for new molecule, development of new molecule, then you also face a number of new side effect or number of side effect of that particular molecule. So our society, our pharmacist, our medical staff must be aware about that. The first, there is a little time for doctor and patient dialogue, as the doctor usually has too little time to spend with each patient. Many a time doctor to patient as an excessive and wrongful use of drug. More and more people fall in what is the laterogenesis or drug induced disease and misuse of drug. So because of doctor or physician having less time, so he is not able to communicate the proper use of that particular medicine, that particular drug. So patient is suffering or induce new disease because of that particular drug or wrong use of that particular drug, misuse of that particular drug. So this is a big problem in India. So one more thing that is very common is increasing in self medication by the patient. These had led the development of clinical pharmacy as a new subject. then by this subject, pharmacists can aware the patient and the society regarding the use and misuse and self-medication, to avoid the self-medication, the type of things to the general public. Clinical pharmacy can be defined as the branch of pharmaceutical science dealing with utilization of pharmacist knowledge, skill, and judgment related to a biomedical and the pharmaceutical science to prove the safety and the cost and the precision of drug uses in the patient care. So this is a main goal of the clinical pharmacist or clinical pharmacy, to educate the patient, to work for the patient care with safety and cost and precision of drug use. This is a history of clinical pharmacy. The term clinical pharmacy was first used in 1953. The concept of clinical pharmacy started in 1960 with the two incidents. First is thalidomide tragedy. You all know what is thalidomide tragedy in Second World War. Uh, Thalidomide is given to the pregnant lady, and uh, after that, the birth of babies is sealed limb. You can see in the picture this type of baby born after the taking of thalidomide. In that is around the things in during the Second World War time. The second tragedy is phenytoin toxicity in 1968. Uh, it was reported in Australia, which was because of a change in a formulation, that is switching over the calcium sulfate to lactose as an inert excipient in a tablet. So if you are taking um, phenytoin formulation you are preparing, and if you are adding that ingredient, inert ingredient lactose, and if you're replacing lactose the calcium sulfate, then this type of you can see in a picture, this type of teeth arrangements will disturb. Now, after this two tragedy, they start the concept of clinical pharmacy to make aware the patient, medical staff, pharmacists regarding the side effect of that particular drug, misuse of that particular drug, or not proper use of that particular drug. So, this concept is very important as per the safety of patient, to investigate bioavailability, pharmacokinetics, and toxicity of different formulation. Obviously, this job was mainly given to pharmacology and clinical pharmacology, developed as a subject in medical institution. So now they include this clinical pharmacy subject in a along with a pharmacology or along with a pharmacy subject. Now, scope of clinical pharmacy. So, the preparation of patient medication, the any hypersensitivity or allergy to the specific drug observed in a past, any particular drug, food habits, drug dependence, intoxication with the chemical due to the occupational hazard, all of which are likely interfere with the therapy. So all these things affect the patient medication. So you have to consider all the things regarding the allergies and food habits and chemical uh, exposure. This will help to saving the physician time and the effort, and thus the result in a faster and more accurate selection of drug therapy. So if you are taking the proper medication history from the patient in a patient interview, then this will help to the physician to write a proper medication to the patient. Now, rational prescription, the clinical pharmacist can suggest the physician and help him in the selecting in the right drug. Some examples of the irrational combination identified by the pharmacist. So you can see this is a haloperidol, diazepam, and amitriptyline. Some is a CNS depressant and another is CNS stimulant drug. That is a contraindicated drug, but that is written in a previous history by the some physician. So we can take the this type of example, or we can avoid this type of prescription to inform the doctor in prior basis. Razorpine and Centamil. This is one is CNS stimulant, another drug cause a cardiac um, toxicity or cardiac effect. So these type of also drugs we can't prescribe together. And now next is bioequivalence and generic equivalence of pharmaceutical formulations. You can see the number of factors which influence the bioavailability of drug from the dosage form. So selection of proper dosage form is also very important in the case of patient care. So selection of proper drug therapy based on the bioequivalence study of different dosage form of the same drug moiety. If you are taking the syrup and you are taking the tablet and you are taking the capsule, all three are the oral dosage form, but having different bioavailability, or same drug moiety having the parenteral injection, having the subcutaneous injection, having the oral dosage form or sublingual route. These all are having different bioavailability. So this study also will help in a selection of drug and formulations. Patient monitoring. Observe the signs and symptoms that indicate the need of reaction to the drug. Clinical pharmacist who knows correct route of administration, the sign and the symptoms of overdose, contraindication of that particular drug, desired effect, undesired effect, and side effect can help the monitoring of drug therapy. So after the prescription, after the starting the treatment, pharmacist must know about the side effect of that particular drug. Drug with a narrow therapeutic index, when drug administered in the patient who are critical ill or are suffering from the chronic disease. So at that time, pharmacist must aware the patient and also take care regarding the uh, regarding the medication of that particular patient. Now, uh, some example is given: disease condition hypertensive. Now, class of drug is diuretic. The parameter measured in a blood pressure change. Similarly, diabetes, in the case of diabetes, we are giving the insulin and we are taking the parameter from the urine glucose level or blood glucose level. Now, next is adverse drug reaction and drug interaction. The clinical pharmacist can compile process data using the uh, computers and make it available to the medical staff. Uh, they may suggest the alternate therapy of applicable, uh, identify the drug effect modification due to the interaction with several food like alcohol, smoking, environmental chemical, as well as due to the pregnancy or some other complications. You at that time you have to or clinical pharmacist have to suggest the alternate therapy for the patient for his better care. Now, drug diagnostic case where does drug is interfering or not. Some intravenous administration, drug information specialist, a clinical pharmacist being an expert on the drug may operate a drug information services through a effective utilization and retrieval of the clinical drugs literature, and the pharmacist can be actively communicated drug information. He can help during the medical emergency by providing immediate information uh, on antidotes in case of any poisoning or overdosing of that particular drug. That information specialist also uh, we consult with him, or these in drug information must be available in your pharmacy or your hospital. Now, retail pharmacy store, you can see this is a proper pharmacy store, and many OTC drugs have the potential to interact with a prescription drug. So we can aware the patient regarding the avoid the OTC medication or take care in the case of taking medication uh, over the counter. A clinical pharmacist at retail drug store can maintain patient drug profile, family drug profile, family records based on which pharmacist can counsel the patient each time while the filling the prescription. Uh, from patient from which pharmacist he is taking the consultation previously, you must know or you must aware. He can determine the patient response to drug therapy and help him in the selection of use of OTC drug. Now, discharge counseling and patient compliance. That is very important when patient inpatient they are going to discharge after his medication. So his counseling is very essential. The compliance to the therapy can be improved several times by the educating and counseling the patient at the time of discharge from the hospital while dispensing the prescription at the retail counter. The patient may be made aware of the purpose of medication, proper mode of administration, dosage schedule, and the storage condition. He may be told on many potential adverse or side effect to expect and any food or activity to be avoided during the therapy. Clinical research and counting education program. The clinical pharmacist can participate in an evaluation program on investigational drug. He can help to conducting clinical trials based on the sound principle of the biostatistical methods of the evaluation. He can also develop the training programs for the pharmacists, nurses, intern staff, as well as physician as required. So clinical research and continuing the education program is very essential, and this is conducting in throughout the year as required. Medical audit. The medical audit is a logical and necessary procedure within organized teamwork. The clinical pharmacist is either the initiator or the very active member of the functioning committee following are the activity concerning the medical staff. legislation, contractual obligation, regulation, registration of pharmacotherapy, orders and administration. If you have pen and paper, you can write down. Regulation of clinical experiment with drugs, information per subject, per patient, pharmacotherapy committee policy, regulation of information from the pharmaceutical industry, a regulation of information from the pharmaceutical industry, local and regional microsymposia per patient, microsymposia, formulary policy, retrospective study of the drug uses pattern, and medical audit committee work. So these are the things we are considering in a medical audit of any drug. Legislation. Pharmacists must be know regarding the legislation or uh, jurisprudence or pharmacy law which is related with a medicine and dispense of medicine. The pharmacist is responsible for the quality of medicine he dispense. So he must aware about this. Contractual obligation. The authorized pharmacist should be charged with a supervision over the maintenance of the organization included involving the storage, the distribution, and the registration of drug, regardless they are in the pharmacy or elsewhere in the institution. Regulation and registration of pharmacotherapeutic order and administration. A clinical pharmacy must provide the means for the pharmacotherapy. The follow-up should be reviewed by the pharmacist with the head nurses and medical director. The specific problem should be discussed with concerned members of the healthcare team which regulate. So they also must aware regarding the pharmacotherapy. Now, regulation of clinical experiment with drugs. The regulation of clinical trials is necessary to ensure that there are no ethical problems that may harm patient. Secondly, to control trials. Third, to control pharmacotherapy therapy through the new drug. Now, registration and processing of request for the use of unregistered drug, their purchasing, control of stock and turnover, quality control, supply, compounding, control of the code and key of blind experiment, report of the deviation of standard operating and registration procedure of the to the directors. So these also comes under the duty of clinical pharmacist. Information per subject and per patient. It is very important to clinical pharmacists must aware or uh, information regarding the subject as well as the patient and it's his medication. Information per subject and per patient may be provided by the clinical pharmacy. Information is a service and should be given unasked for a when deemed necessary. These information only pass out when it is necessary. Therapeutic committee that I already discussed in second unit, that is PTC. In this information, a specific subject policy is prepared within the multidisciplinary team and produced as advice. Clinical pharmacists can recommend and motivate and must ensure the continuity of pharmacotherapeutic therapy committee work. So PTC also involved in the same. Now, regulation of the information from the pharmaceutical industry. The promotional activity of the pharmaceutical industry are the primary physician oriented part of their information may be essential. Now, clinical pharmacists and physicians have different requirement for the additional information. Thus, it is possible to select information and the representative from the industry for the discussion of a specific subject with clinical pharmacist and the physician. So, medical representative and the field officer of different industry, they communicate with the information of new drug or new formulation to the physician and the pharmacist. That information also updated. Now, goal to promote the correct and appropriate use of medication product and devices. These activity aim at maximizing the clinical trials, clinical effects of medicine, minimizing the risk of treatment-induced adverse event, and minimizing the expenditure for the pharmacological treatment. So, this is also cost-effective and patient care services which are giving through clinical pharmacy. Now, clinical pharmacy requirement you can see in this diagram. Patient care related with a knowledge of drug therapy, knowledge of disease, knowledge of laboratory and diagnostic skill, communication skill, patient monitoring skill, physical assessment skill, drug information skill, therapeutic planning skill, knowledge of non-drug therapy. So this is a requirement of clinical pharmacy. Clinical pharmacists must know this. Or now, level of action of clinical pharmacists. Clinical pharm Clinical pharmacy activity may influence the correct use of medicine at the three different levels: before, during, and after the prescription is written. So these three information must be having with clinical pharmacist, and clinical pharmacy is having activity to get aware regarding the history of patient, responses of drug during the medication, and responses of drug after the completion of prescription. Before the prescription, that is clinical trials of that particular drug, formularies, whether drug included or not, drug information regarding the effect, side effect, and adverse effect. Now, drug related policies, etc. These things clinical pharmacists consider before the prescription. During the prescription, counseling activity, clinical pharmacists can influence the attitude and priorities of the prescriber in their choice of correct treatment. The clinical pharmacist monitors, detects, and prevents medication related problem. The clinical pharmacist pays special attention to the doses of drug which need therapeutic monitoring. Community pharmacists can also make prescription decision directly when over-the-counter drugs are counseled. So during the prescription, these things should be in consideration. Now, medication-related problem: untreated indication, improper drug selection, subtherapeutic doses, medication failure, medication overdose, adverse reaction, drug interaction, medications used without indication. So time is less. Now we are concluding our topic here. If you got any problem related this topic, you can directly ask to me, or you can message me your question. I will try to solve your problem. And your till now I didn't receive uh, your answer sheets of first session.